Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Production channel here at YouTube, and welcome to, of course, another album of the week. This, of course, is episode number 92. This week, I'm, of course, spotlighting an album that many people definitely consider one of the most essential new wave or British heavy metal albums, ranking it next to, of course, the debut album from Diamond Head being Lightning to the Nations, and, of course, the self-titled debut from Iron Maiden. That, of course, here is the self-titled debut album from Angel Witch, which was released in December, at least sometime in December of 1980. Therefore, will make it, or pretty much will mark its 40th anniversary. So, to celebrate this album, of course, it is getting highlighted on this channel. So, where do I really start with this album, which, again, many people consider one of the most essential new wave or British heavy metal albums? Well, let's definitely focus on the fact that this is it seems to be the only full-length album with this lineup right here. At least, I guess in many ways, with the original lineup of Angel Witch. Though again, I could always be corrected in the comments section, which I can go on to the Metal Archives here and look at the very first 78 demo, and it's pretty much it is the original, the first and only full-length album with this original lineup. I had to, of course, redact myself at least to go back to the 1978 demo, basically, on the Metal Archives. So yeah, this is the again with the lineup of Kevin Hayborn, who at this point is pretty much has been Angel Witch. He's been the most consistent member. Again, Angel Witch has been Kevin Hayborn, but along the right, of course, is on bass is Kevin Skids Riddles, and on drums being Dave Hogg. So this is, of course, is your again the only full-length album with the original lineup. But and of course, prior to this, again, also being of course part of the Metal for Mothers compilation with believe it was Baphomet, and of course again providing as many B-sides and so on. But this album, of course, their only full-length album, their first full-length album, and again, it is many people consider it one of the most classic records of all time. But just look at the track list. We got 10 songs on this album, and it all clocks into 38 minutes and 19 seconds. Just from the opening title track, which again is usually considered one of the most essential new wave of British heavy metal songs, along with the self-titled song from Iron Maiden, or Prowler, depending, or the song It's Electric or Am I Evil, to of course Diamond Head. Many people consider the song Angel Witch as one of the crowning jewels of the new wave or British heavy metal movement. I don't know if I share the same sentiments, but it is definitely an enjoyable song. But from there, it's of course Atlantis, White Witch, Confused, Sorcerers, Gorgon, Sweet Danger, which is definitely in that same camp as like Charlotte the Harlot, I feel, as well, because it's got that very galloping new wave or British heavy metal feel to it. It's a good song. Then, of course, Free Man, Angel of Death, and of course ending with Devil's Tower, which actually is shorter on this album, because if we go back to the original 1978 demo, it's much longer, clocking at 7 minutes, actually, I believe. Actually 5 minutes and 53 seconds, actually, but it was an instrumental, but it was much longer on the demo. But here on the album, it's shortened to at least 2 minutes and 28 seconds, and it's pretty much a part of the song Angel of Death. If you were to combine both these two, it pretty much makes an entirely, it will, go into like maybe 7 or 8 minutes, maybe. I think I'm about close to at least 6 or 7 minutes, I would say. So it definitely pushes that mark if you were to combine these two, because again, it definitely transitions. From Angel of Death to, of course, Devil's Tower. But again, it's a pretty good way to end the album. It was a good way. But I'll definitely talk more about Devil's Tower, but that it's just a good way to end it. But that pretty much rounds out the track listing. I mean, it definitely, again, many people do consider this a lot of the, again, they consider this the most essential new wave or British heavy metal album of at least 1980, or just in general. Ranking it again, like I stated, next to Lightning to the Nations from Diamond Head, and next to the self-titled album from, of course, Iron Maiden, their debut. So you did it. It just seems to have such a high acclaim to this album. But to talk about this album and my personal bond to at least this album, it all goes back to 2008 when me and my brother were both were watching. Oh boy, I think it might have been was it Inside the Music or Behind the Music, the MTV special I think that they did on Metallica, and in that special. I think it was Lars Ulrich. He talked about how some of the bands that really inspired him to start Metallica, and that's when he name dropped Angel Witch. And I didn't know the fuck Angel Witch were. Same goes for my brother, which, again, when it came to Metallica, they were like the hotbed for introducing a whole new generation to, of course, the new wave of British heavy metal movement, the NWOBHM, for shorter. They introduced a whole new generation to, of course, that movement, which again inspired the likes of Metallica, which inspired the likes of Exodus, which inspired the likes of Anthrax, and Slayer, and so many bands. I might have named Slayer already. Megadeth, I mean Dave Mustaine, which of course, being one of the original members of Metallica, you have to definitely thank Lars for also help pretty much turning again, guys like James Hetfield and Dave Mustaine onto, of course, the bands like Diamond Head and Angel Witch and so on. But still, they did. But the thing is, the songs they covered, none of them was an Angel Witch song. So really, when my brother, who of course was the one who decided to go back and check out Diamond Head, didn't even know didn't know Angel Witch even existed until watching that documentary. That little, I think that whole episode on Behind the Music, I believe it was. Again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but still, we both, in many ways, still introduced us, and that's when we decided to check out Angel Witch. And again, at the time when I heard this album, at that period, because all had been released. Of course, I do own right now. I do own still for at least since 2013 the 2010 30th anniversary expanded edition of the sound. But at the time when we found out about Angel Witch, all was the 25th anniversary edition of Angel Witch, which was just a single 2-disc with some of the B-sides and so on from Angel Witch that were tagged as bonus tracks. So that's basically what rounded out, and that's when I first heard the album. And at first, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy this album a lot, but when I first heard it, besides, of course, really liking songs like Angel Witch and Atlantis and even White Witch and Confused and Sweet, though Sweet Danger took me some time, and of course, Angel of Death, songs like, for example, Sorcerers and Gorgon and Free Man and even Devil's Tower didn't really click with me at the time when I first heard this album. I didn't really get to really appreciate these songs until really, actually really owning this album myself. Again, with the deluxe copy, I didn't really get to really appreciate most of these songs. And again, finally last night when re-listening to the album to really, again to have a more fresh memory to really kind of use for this video here, it clicked immediately. I think this is the first time in a long time where I feel like the album, giving it a fresh listen last night before doing this review here, it just immediately clicked, where I think my mind has finally been really just came full circle on this album. I mean, at this point, when it came to songs like Sorcerers and Gorgon and Free Man, everything just finally clicked with me after years. I mean, Sorcerers is a slower song. Very much, again, it starts off very brooding, very well, almost kind of proggy in some ways. Very doomy. Kind of has that very mid-period Black Sabbath feel. At times it combined with a little bit of Queen. I always, when listening to this album, I consider it like a combination between the first two albums from Queen and, of course, the 70s period of Judas Priest. Combine the more gothic feel of the very, again, just the gothic grandiose feel of the first two Queen albums, but combined with the more sinister, dark, very metallic tone of again, like albums like Rock'n'Rolla, Sad Wings of Destiny, and Sin After Sin period of Judas Priest, with a little bit of touches of course, the first Iron Maiden album, and some touches of UFO here and there. And of course some Black Sabbath thrown in there as well for some extra measure. It's like every bit, it's just has a big 70s influence, and especially it's heard on songs like Sorcerer and Gorgon and Freeman. And Freeman is definitely the sole power ballad of this album, even though by today's standards, I don't know if you really can call it an actual power ballad, but I think listening to it last night, I really looked at it as a power ballad in its own right. And I think I do like the song a lot more now than I actually did ever before. I think it's a solid song now, but it's definitely not a heavy song. But again, it's got a pretty good, of course, the guitar work from, of course, Kevin Hayborn on this album is definitely something. I think he definitely at times can get almost underappreciated. He definitely provides some great guitar solos on the album, but I think Freeman is probably, I guess, the most, I guess you could say, the closest to more of a, I don't know, more commercial kind of song, if it could have been a radio hit. And I think his guitar solo, I think, fits that atmosphere of the song, so I think it works in there. But again, just last night, it just clicked for me. And then, of course, again, going back to Sorcerers, it just begins very calm, but it's got a sinister and dark tone to it. And as it moves along, it seems to really build before getting into that middle section, where it just breaks loose and it provides some of the heaviest riffs for at least 1980. It's just a heavy song. This, I would say, along with maybe Children of the Sea from Black Sabbath, it's up to there, or at times the sign of the sign of the Southern Cross. I mean, it's next to that. It just has that aspect and an atmosphere of course, those two songs from Black Sabbath. It's just, again, very much close to there. It definitely is probably one of my new favorite songs off this album. Gorgon is a fine song too. It's, again, a very galloping heavy. I mean, it starts out kind of very dark somewhere. Again, they were doing like this with, of course, songs like Flight 19 and Baphomet, but not nearly as heavy, but it's kind of close. And again, it also, I think the thing is, some of the songs on this album are pretty heavy, but it, of course, so it also comes down to the production, which was done by Martin Smith on this album. He gives them, I mean, I'm going to look on the Metal Archives right now and look at his, he did the production for, Avenger on Bloodsport and so on, but for some reason, again, even looking at Venom with At War with Satan, I'm just looking at some of these here, and for some reason, compared to some of these bands like Avenger and Blitzkrieg, and of course Venom, I would say Blitzkrieg is probably the closest. I think next year is probably his most slicky produced albums. Because for this album, comparing to an album like Bloodsport and At War with Satan, which are just absolutely raw sounding albums and were heavy, it gave him a crunch. But for some reason with this album, and of course A Time of Changes from Blitzkrieg, it seems like he did give Angel Witch and made these songs sound a little too produced. It sounds a little too clean for some reason, which kind of, I think, robs a little bit of the album's, some of these songs' real heaviness. Because again, there's some heavy shit on this record. Again, like Sorcerers, for example, and Confused, and Atlantis, and Angel of Death, and even Sweet Danger. They're heavy songs. But the thing is, Martin Smith's production, I think, is a little bit too clean, a little too squeaky clean, I feel, for for this album. It almost seems like it's a different producer, like it almost should have been produced by Tom Allom instead. But instead, it's the same guy that produced At War with Satan from Venom and Bloodsport from Avenger, which I think are just raw and crunchy sounding albums that for some reason it seems to be weird. But that's just my little nitpick for this album. Because again, the thing is, again, it took me years to really appreciate most of this album. But again, now, since the last night, everything just came full circle. And it just finally clicked for me. So some of these, they're really, I really can't point out a bad song on this album. Now, let's finally get to the very last song, which basically is, it's a twofer. Angel of Death and Devil's Tower. Devil's Tower, again, is pretty much a part of Angel of Death. I mean, Angel of Death is, again, one of the heaviest songs on this album. I don't know, if Slayer were trying to copy the title from the song. I mean, it's kind of, those are the only two bands I know at this point that really used the word Angel of Death. But in this case, it's not about the Holocaust. It's about, again, it's kind of the look how evil we are kind of lyrics in a way. But I think in Angel Witch, it's done in a more gothic tone. Kind of something like early Judas Priest and maybe early Queen in some aspects. It's more telltale kind of lyrical composition than really look how evil we are, trying to look how shocking what we can be. You know, that kind of thing. So it's a little different, but it's a heavy riff. But the thing is, it of course transitions to Devil's Tower. Again, like I was saying before, this was a longer song on the 1978 demo. Here, I don't know what was the whole deal with them shortening the song for this album. Because again, it's shortened to at least 2 minutes and 28 seconds. When again, on the 1978 demo, it's around a little over 5 minutes long. And it's I don't know what was the whole deal, if they didn't have enough time to record the full song. Or again, that maybe it could have been the same situation what happened with Judas Priest with the Electric Eye on Screaming for Vengeance, where the Electric Eye was supposed to be its full song, but they didn't get enough time to really finish the entire song. But instead, I think they just made it like a beginning intro to, I think it worked. I think it actually is some of the best album intros in years. But I don't know, I'm just hunching. I'm just making a hunch. I don't know if this was Angel Witch's idea, though, to make Devil's Tower, shorting it, but again, using it as a way to transition from Angel Witch Angel of Death to this song. Basically, again, kind of prog composition almost, because a lot of prog bands did this kind of thing where, especially even also for Captain Beyond, who are, again, more heavy psych, but they did this same thing. And then Judas Priest expanded on this as well with some of their earlier albums, where they would combine two songs, but they would separate them as a way to be their own songs, but they pretty much transition to one another to basically create a whole different experience. And that was something that started with a lot of prog bands. So that's why I'm using the term prog composition, basically, because that's what Angel Witch kind of did with this. Again, basically recording a whole song, but in many ways basically transition from one to the other. So that's kind of the thing. Again, it begins where Angel of Death leaves off, but it's pretty much the same thing. And the things with this song, to make the Judas Priest comparisons any more apparent, I swear, it's been so. There was a point in time where it had been so long since I had listened to Rock'n'Rolla and I'd listened to the first Angel Witch album here for so long, I was confusing in my mind Devil's Tower for a song off of Rock'n'Rolla, because it just has that 70s Priest sound to, of course, this song here, Devil's Tower. It just has a 70s Priest sound to it, to even the guitar tone and so on, and the way it sounds. It almost sounds like it could have been an outtake from, of course, the first album from Judas Priest being Rock'n'Rolla. Like, almost I was confusing it. Maybe it could have been Run to the Hill, almost from Judas Priest, because it just has that feel to it. But no, I remembered then finally when we're listening to the album, it's an Angel Witch song. So it just sounds like that. It really, again, the appearance between the influence on 70s era Judas Priest on this album are so apparent. You really can hear it. So really, there's just not a bad song on here. Again, this would be the final full-length album with, of course, with this original lineup of Angel Witch here, with just the original 3 guys. It would be the last one. Because after this, they would do the Loser, the Dr. Phibes, I believe it might have been, the Dr. Phibes 7 EP. Which would then, after that, the lineup changes with, of course, Screaming and Bleeding and Frontal Assault. And eventually, in the 2010s, Kevin Hayborn would reform Angel Witch. And since then, they released it as Above, So Below. And then, of course, I believe it was last year. They then released Angel of Light. So Kevin Hayborn is definitely been keeping the Angel Witch name at least alive with a different lineup, but again, now these days it's now a 4-piece instead of a 3-piece, and it's been a 4-piece since Screaming for Bleeding, though, actually. So Kevin Hayborn at this day is pretty much has been Angel Witch. Angel Witch has been Kevin Hayborn. So there you go. There is the debut album from, of course, Angel Witch, and since it's pretty much marking its 4th anniversary in December, for those who grew up with this album, what are your thoughts on this album? Do you share the same thoughts when you first heard this album, or other thoughts have changed over time? Do you still feel it is one of the most classic and most essential new wave or British heavy metal albums, or do you think it's a little bit more overrated? I know that has definitely been talked about. I know those who I've been subscribed to, being one metal theologian, definitely shares the sentiments that it seems to be the most overrated new wave or British heavy metal record. But I know many people have different opinions, so what are your thoughts on this album? And for those who may have not heard this album, I mean, if you're getting into the new wave or British heavy metal movement, you still have to at least check out this album anyways, because again, because of being next to albums like the debut album from Iron Maiden, and of course Lightning to the Nations from Diamond Head, or Wheels of Steel, or Strong Arm the Law from Saxon, or On Through the Night from Def Leppard. I mean, I can go on on and on with most classic new wave or British heavy metal records, or albums that are considered classic new wave or British heavy metal albums. I mean, you still have to at least check out the Angel Witch album. You still at least have to, just because it is because of such and such. All right, that's all I have to say, and I'm just gonna end it right there. So there you go. Hope y'all enjoyed. This is for Thrash. I say I'm out. I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone. And I hope all of you had a great Thanksgiving. Take care.